covered it up the same way you have covered up the mass murder of native people, of native children at the residential schools. The dastardly deeds that have been done cannot be undone. But at least let's go after the criminals who have done those deeds, and the criminals in high and low places that have been covering it up. The chicken are going to come home to roost. And you better turn around. This is the 5th calf they killed. It had a good mother, she was looking well after. But about 4 days ago, I figured, they gassed it and it stopped sucking. So I fed it the night before, and I thought it would pull through. But yesterday morning I found that poor fella dead. And the so-called Christian community with their big fancy churches, they cover it up. Shame on you. You will have to face the Lord one day. Don't you remember what it said? Pervert not justice to the stranger that's living in your midst. You hypocrites!
Now let's fast forward to for about 1 month to the beginning of July. After the initial damage and the harm has been done on the animals, and now they have to follow it up with the damage to be done to the hayfield and to the pasture. Here we see on the lower farm the shoulder of the road and the headlands of the hayfield on the lower side of the road. You see this white wheat, it's called poverty wheat. This has been introduced, or the criminals have tried to introduce it and have contaminated a lot of good hay ground. This wheat is called poverty wheat. And it grows in the richest ground. So it doesn't come from out of nowhere. And what I've seen over the last years, where this wheat would show up, and simultaneously Timothy would die right out. I've been farming now for over 50 years in the old country in here, and I never have seen a hayfield, within a year or 2 years completely taken over by weeds. Generally the grasses, they are a lot more aggressive and they hold their ground. And but as I say, I've brought it to the attention of the Department of Agriculture, to the Minister of Agriculture, to all the experts, and it's high time that those experts are being held accountable and need to get kicked out. Criminal investigations have to be done. The playing field has been severely tilted against the farmers who want to farm sustainable and who want to make a living on the farm. And it's tilted towards those farmers that are on the favored list of the Department of Agriculture and of the government, and that are holding the Monsanto line. And those farms, they have been propped up now for the last 30, 40 years with huge grants. And this has to stop. We need a level playing field, and those crimes, those environmental crimes and those environmental watergates have to be stopped. You people in the cities, you want homegrown food, so start opening your eyes and support us farmers here, the ones that want to farm sustainable, that want to provide you with a healthy food, and that don't want to farm the Monsanto way. So if you want to get more information, I will provide more information on the internet. Besides the point, in 2007 and 2008, there are 2 YouTubes on the internet where I addressed already that problem. Now let's move to the upper farm. The pictures were taken about a week ago, and it looked even more devastating on the upper farm. Here you see the Buckley Settlement Road and the shoulders of the road, and that is not a natural infestation of poverty weeds and goat's beard and several other of those nasty species. And as you see, it is a very vigorous growth, so that means there's no place for poverty weed or bedstraw to grow. So that means, in other words, it's not natural infestation, it's deliberately introduced. But it looks a lot more devastating what they did to the land. And the following pictures, they will show most of that ground had manure, had been limed, and the more I did over the years in order to build up the soil, the more it was being sabotaged. Most of those toxins, selective herbicides that kill off the productive hay species like timothy and red clover, most of those herbicides have been dumped on by plane, but over the last years we have more and more ground crews at work. Or they drive along the road and spray to the side, to the shoulder of the road and onto the headlands. But the following pictures, they show what has been done, the damage that has been done to the hay ground. Here you see one part of the hayfield along the road and along the gully. Along the gully has been severely ruined with this bedstraw, and as you see, there is no more timothy to be seen. In all my lives of farming, I never have seen that happening from within a year or two. Maybe, I guess, it seems like they have already introduced some of those super weeds to force us into the Monsanto agenda. And as you see, this lush growth, how much timothy is still there. Anybody who has watched it and is a farmer can understand what I'm talking about. A good hay ground, it doesn't deteriorate within a couple of years to that extent. And but anyway, I'm so fed up. I've jumped through all the hoops with all the different government departments, from the Department of Agriculture to the Department of the Environment to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're all collecting big paychecks and they're not doing anything. And it is high time that the working stiff that have to pay taxes, that they pay attention where their taxes have been, in whose pockets they're ending up. And it's high time that those deadbeats in the government get kicked out. And one of the last ones I identify is the Minister of Agriculture for the province of New Brunswick, Mike Olskamp. They have a tradition here in New Brunswick where they appoint ministers of agriculture, fellas that don't have a clue about agriculture. Instead of putting a farmer in charge of the agriculture department, they put bureaucrats or people that have worked their whole life in different professions. And it doesn't mean when they come from Sackville or from the rural area that they are farmers and that they have a clue about. I'm amazed about the ignorance of most of the people about what's going out all in nature. And this extends to the so-called environmental organizations. Most of them, they are city folks. They move out into the countryside and automatically assume that suddenly they become environmental experts. Here, for example, one prime example about where the forest specialist a few years ago said to me, "Oh, that ground needs lime." And this happened to be taken in a spot right beside the lime pile, where the ground is covered about with a half an inch of lime. And it shows wild strawberries that are a typical indicator of acidity in the soil. And so it means deliberately introduced. Well, here we come to the last three pictures. And I like to give the viewer and the listener to understand. We farmers who have spent most of our lives on the land, we are not dummies, and this kind of attitude by the so-called university-educated crowd that they think they can blow us aside and blow us off, they better start paying attention. They have done so much damage to the planet on its environment as a whole, as a group. Sure, there are some exceptions, but as a whole, they have not been a blessing to humanity. They have become a curse, and they will, in the end, be the demise, the reason for the demise of humanity and of any kind of sustainable life on this planet. But as I say, let's go back to on the ground. What I said about nutritional imbalances, there's one way among us farmers to identify that. It's a certain plant species and the growth of those plant species that indicate that there's something wrong in the nutritional balance in the soil. There you see the linden leaf. Normally it grows about maximum about 2 inches wide. There you see one, it's about 7.5 inches wide. I've seen the same thing with balsam purple leaves going up to 16 inches. Then you see the ivy leaves, and with the rotten tips and the chlorotic new shoots there, that means one of the micronutrient deficiencies, most likely boron. And well, as a last, I throw in a picture I've been paying attention to about chemtrails and the weird things that are happening in the sky. And I don't know, that picture might be one omen of the things to come. People, wake up.